Desmond Wellington, welcome to 10-6 Life Factors. I thank you for joining me today. Desmond is a hydrologist in Jamaica, and I'm going to have him explain to us what hydrologists actually do. And you can fill in the blanks there for us, Desmond. Go ahead, please.
Hi. Hi. My name is Desmond Wellington. I am a hydrologist for the Water Resources Authority, which is a state-run organization that controls or protects all the freshwater resources in Jamaica. We are charged with allocating water. We are charged with protecting the water. We're charged with preserving and researching all freshwater resources in the island. I am 30 years old. I went to the University of the West Indies, and hydrology has been a passion of mine for the past 8 years or so.
Thank you for that. So I'm glad you mentioned that you attended University of the West Indies, because my next question is if a youth, just already, thinking about going to college and they're thinking of a unique area, because I feel this is unique. It's not often that you hear about a hydrologist. Yeah. Tell us the path from high school on up, in terms of were there, did you do a sixth form and you pay attention to particular subject areas and then you get into University of the West Indies? Share that path for us.
Sure. So I attended the Waterford High School in Portmore. That's where I'm originally from. And after that, I went to sixth form at St. Diego High School. There, I studied primarily all the science subjects because that's what I'm particularly good at. I did physics, biology, chemistry, geography, and communication science, and the other compulsory subject. I think it's Caribbean Studies. Yeah, I think it's Caribbean Studies. So I primarily stayed on the science path because that's what I'm actually really good at. From San Diego, I went to the University of the West Indies, where I majored in geology and minored in geography. To get into the Faculty of Pure and Applied Sciences, you have to have the general sciences, chemistry, biology, physics, geography, geology, to be accepted. And once you're accepted, then you can pick your major from that point on.
Very, very, very interesting. So basically you're saying the science, those science courses are really the foundation of getting you into, say, geology and geography, because the study of the environment applies to both. And then you did the applied disciplinary area of that in order to what are the practical experience while you were in that program?
Well, to be honest, I really just liked being outside. That's why I started doing that program. I didn't want to go for medicine or engineering, because I just really like getting dirty and playing in the mud. To major in geology, you will need to have all the major science backgrounds, and then you just target on geology itself. So you need to know chemistry, because there's a lot of chemistry for the rock types and such, and rock composition. You need to know a lot of physics. You need to know biology, because there's an aspect of geology called paleontology, which is the study of dinosaurs and fossils and stuff like that. So you need to have a bit of biology as well. And then there's a human aspect for the geography side, knowing stuff like the gross domestic product, GDP, knowing about the various countries and your political backgrounds and socioeconomic issues that each country faces, knowing how to design cities, urban and regional planning. So that's what I did for geography. And geology was where I really flourished, because that's where I did most of my hardcore science subjects.
Very interesting. And so you're saying it's almost an innate passion for you. It comes naturally for you to just study these areas. And I'm sure that many people tend to, they get their taste of chemistry, for example, in high school, and this, that's it. it's over, and then segue into the social science subject. So congratulations to you for that perseverance and to be able to complete. So you get into UA, you study these two areas. Was it like a double major or minor major?
It was a major minor. I actually did a lot for geography. The only thing that was necessary for me to get a double major was to write 2 theses. Because I wrote an original thesis for geology, and if I had written an original thesis for geography as well, then it would have been a double major.
Very, very interesting. And how would you, it sounds like the program at the University of the West Indies is a very rigorous or robust program.
It is.
Describe, is it that it takes a particular set of skills? Well, not just in terms of the sciences, but did you have to do some type of entrance test to get in, or what is the entrance requirement?
To get in, you do need to be competent in geography. Having done geography at Cape level, for 6th form,
yes,
does help you a lot, because it takes a lot of spatial awareness. You need to be in an area, you need to know your basic skills are like map reading skills.
Okay.
So that is pretty important as well. Map interpretation is also very important.
And how are very, very interesting. And so do you have mentor? Have you developed mentor in the program?
Yeah, you do get a mentor at the beginning of the program. You get a tutor each year, actually, and they do come in handy because the program is so field intense. A lot of the times you will be in the field and because you're not aware of what you're looking for, you're only taught what you're looking for in the theory. And once you learn the theory, you get to do the practical. Things look different in real life. So one aspect or one interesting thing what happened was that we had to do the very first field work. We had to look for a feature called a slick and slide striation.
Okay.
A slick and slide striation is what happened to rocks when they rub against each other. So if you have a rock and there's a fault line in between that rock, those two faces rub against each other. And then like if one face is eroded or is removed because like they're building roadways or anything like that, then you have one face with the rubbing, with the marks of a rock that was there.
Right.
You will look at a picture of a slick and slide striation and it's like, okay, yeah, this makes sense. This is a slick and slide striation. A rock was here and it was rubbing against another rock. Then you go out into the field and see it in real life and you're wondering, what is this? Am I supposed to identify this? Is this real? This just looks like a typical rock.
Yes.
So your tutors do come in handy because they help you to apply the theory to the practical and make pictures become real life. Thank
you for that. So we're talking to Desmond Wellington, and he is a hydrologist in Jamaica. He's sharing about the process that he took to become a hydrologist. And he's sharing about some of the things that he finds fascinating in the practical aspect of it, the field section of this study. And so tell me more. I'm interested about the program because if someone asked me and said, okay, the faculty itself, were they Jamaicans or Caribbean people or people that they have to recruit from overseas, different countries outside of the Caribbean, for example?
It's
special Go ahead.
It's a mixed bag, actually, because the program is really diverse for the geography and geology. For the Department of Geography and Geology is a very diverse department. We had lecturers from the University of Leeds, lecturers from London, lecturers from Florida, lecturers from Trinidad, lecturers from Jamaica locally, our locally grown lecturers as well. Because the major is so diverse. You get to do paleontology, you get to do hydrology, sedimentology, crystallography. You would need various lecturers to teach you various things. So my paleontology lecturer was a Jamaican who did his PhD in Canada. My sedimentology lecturer was a professor who's originally from England. My hydrology lecturer is originally from India. I think she's from Bangladesh.
Very interesting, yeah.
Yeah.
And so with that, as you said, diversity there, you're exposed to a world of knowledge. I can imagine. Okay, so now you get through all these very difficult courses because they sound very difficult. And here you are, you graduated, and now your first job is with?
My first job was with the Portmore Municipal Council.
Okay.
That's where I was a geospatial analyst. There I was put in charge of writing the development plan for the city of Portmore, because in order to have a full holistic development, you need to have a plan. You can't just go around building a hospital beside a dump or building, houses beside a factory.
Okay.
So once I left university, I was hired by the municipality to write their development plan. And I was there for 3 years.
When you said you were there for how long?
3 years.
For 3 years. And so you write the plan, and were there any actual project that were actually executed or completed as a result of those plans that you wrote?
I didn't actually complete the plan, it's per se, because it's a very difficult process. We had to start from the ground up. So what we did initially was we built a geodatabase for the municipality. So we created this map of the city. And when you were to click on a house or click on a street, a picture of the street and the map would pop up, just like Google Earth or Google Street View. Yeah, but we were the ones who made it.
Oh, that's very cool.
Yeah. Along with a picture, a description of the area would have been made as well. So you would click on a street and there would be a light post there, and there would be a note that light post registration number was 5463, or there would be a note of this gully has failing walls, or a note of this road has many potholes, stuff like that.
So go ahead.
That way we could actually notice trends in the current way the city is laid out, see what the city really needs, and then write the plan to execute further development in the area.
So it is fascinating that here you are studying this very interesting area, geology and the background in geography and so on, and you live in Portmore, and we do know the historical development of Portmore. I'm sure you know that. So isn't it fascinating? And so you're finding out or building data, I guess, to pinpoint some areas that is it for to say these areas need to be modified, or these areas are safe. These areas
I remember one particular community was Edgewater. They had a lake in the community. It's called Dawkins Pond. And the lake is connected to the harbor, Kingston Harbor. So here people actually had boats that could sail up to their yards, but there were no jetties there. So I had written in the plan to have either a communal jetty where everyone would park their boats and then go home, or a string of jetties along the area. So you could park your boat here. You could park your boat closest to the point to your house.
So what was happening instead? The fact that this resource was needed and it was missing. What were residents doing?
There was a ramp there where you could drive up and dock your boat, let it go, and then drive away. And then when it's ready, you would just sail up to the ramp, drive back up your vehicle to it, hitch your boat there and then drive away. There
Okay.
was nowhere for you to actually dock your boat and leave it there. The closest dock for that type of area was the Jamaica Yacht Club, which is on the other side of Kingston Harbor, near Port Royal.
Did anything realize from that study? Were they able to install an actual jetty
Not to this day, no.
Not
That
to-
was probably 10 years ago. But you know, development takes time. I believe the development order, the document that I was writing, was just completed probably 2 or 3 years ago.
Okay, so you continue so you move on from there and you continue. So even though your job title may be different, the objectives, the responsibility, the task could be the same, I guess, yes?
Well, it was under the scope of what I studied because my degree was so vast, geography and geology, that I could be placed in anywhere in the geosciences. So I could be in hydrology, I could be in sedimentology, I could be in petrology, I could be in paleontology, because the degree program is really vast. It's after you earn your master's or your PhDs where you really zone in on a particular subject.
And but you are at the bachelor's level, yes? Or and any plans to get into the master level program?
I actually do plan to get my PhD, but I'm in the process of like finding scholarships and funding and stuff like that.
And does University of the West Indies offer the PhD, or you'd have to go probably to England or somewhere?
I'd have to probably go to England or the United States, or Pakistan has a really great hydrology program as well. Anywhere where there's a big desert actually has a really great hydrology program, because they have to rely on water a lot. So Israel has a really great program as well. And there is a really great school of hydrology in Delft, Netherlands. That's where I have my sights on right now.
So it seems as if you have done your research and it's just obtain those.
I left the Portmore municipality after being there for 3 years and started working at the Water Resources Authority. And that's where I've been for the past 7 or 8 years now.
Okay, very good. All right. And so how different, if any difference is that from what you were doing just coming out of undergrad school and then moving into the water resource job? How different is it now in terms of the responsibilities or the duties?
The product is different, but the tasks were the same. I had a lot of field work doing in Portmore, in the Portmore municipality. I had to do a lot of field work. I had to produce a lot of maps. I had to write a lot of papers. Same thing at the Water Resources Authority. I do a lot of field work. I produce a lot of maps. I write a lot of papers. It's just now that instead of writing a development plan for a city or looking at how feasible it is to put a supermarket here because of the groundwater or whatever, now I look at ways to protect our freshwater resources, or now I look at research into how best it is we could figure out how to drill this particular well or take water from this particular river.
So Portmore municipality, clearly government, yes? Government, local government.
Yeah.
And is water resource, is it still under government or is it private?
Yes, it's a government agency. It's the island's state agency responsible for freshwater.
Okay. And in terms of the whatever study or reports, and you mentioned something like, well, we want to know if a supermarket can build here. This, your task then, say for example, is you take on these tasks because someone may apply for a permit to build. And
permits and licenses.
Yeah, a private citizen does that. So I'm thinking maybe the cost to this application process can be very expensive, yes?
No.
It is not.
Not at all, not at all. Because
Share.
if the application process is very expensive, then that is a hurdle to development.
Uh-huh.
And you want to have development taking place in your country. So these applications are actually very cheap. Matter of fact, if you were to approach the Water Resources Authority about drilling a well in your backyard, because let's say you have a beet farm and you'd like to get water to water your beet farm. So you'd like to drill a well. That the application is like 45,000 Jamaican dollars, which is like
Less than 400 US.
yeah, less than 100, less than 400 US dollars. Yeah.
Yes.
And that license that you have when you drill your well lasts for 5 years.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so 5 years will go by before you can need to reapply again.
Is there anywhere left to build in the capital, for example? Because are you doing this? Are you doing this for across the island? Are there offices?
Yeah.
There offices. There are sub offices in other major cities in Jamaica.
No, we have one office in Hope Gardens, the Botanical Gardens, and then we deploy from that to everywhere in the island.
So there's a lot of field officers then.
No, there are like 60 people in the organization.
So when you say deploy, who is being deployed?
Hydrologists, data collection men,
Okay.
Other technical staff.
Okay. So I want you to tell me some of the concerns that you may have about water in Jamaica, or waterways, or anything that has to do with your area that considered to be, because I think one of the umbrella word here is environmental concerns, or air issues. So tell me any concerns that may be historical or maybe contemporary, or what is, and then any modification that is being done as a result.
So there is one particular area of interest for myself that I was involved with. We have in Jamaica, we have hydrological basins. These are little catchment areas where water exists, and they don't go outside of a catchment area. So we have 21 basins, and those 21 basins self-contain their own water.
Where are they located?
There's
Across the island?
Across the island, yeah.
Okay.
There is, which is different in other countries, because like, let's say South America, they have basins that are so massive, they expand, they go across countries. So Brazil might share a base with Argentina. Or Brazil might share a base with Venezuela.
We're not sharing with anybody.
No, we're just a tiny island in the Caribbean, so all of our water is ours.
Okay. But you say that in terms of the sharing, are you trying to make a comparison as to say?
No, I was actually leading up to my area of expertise per se.
Okay.
So there's a particular basin called the Rio Cobre Basin. And in the Rio Cobre, there were a lot of sugar estates, because Jamaica was previously a colonial state, and we produced sugar, and it would have been sent to England. Because sugar was king back in the day, a lot of the wells were dug and were just pumped and used to irrigate a lot of lands. Those sugar estates are now converted to like residential areas. There are cities, dwellings where the sugar once was. But we haven't adjusted how we pump the wells. We still pump the wells right around the night. Matter of fact, globally, 60% of the water people get to their homes globally, it comes from a river. But in Jamaica, it's the opposite. 80% of the water that we produce comes from a well.
What's the disadvantage? Is there an advantage, disadvantage?
Yeah, because when you have so many people relying on wells, there's this phenomenon that takes place where, as the fresh water is being sucked up, salt water replaces it.
So that's a
So
disadvantage.
if you over pump a well continuously over time, you no longer get fresh water out of it. You get salt water.
Yeah. And I'm
Yeah,
thinking
so
the salt water may even cause damage to the to
to
whatever.
children, to
Mhm.
even to development, because like people drink that water. As we pump the water we pump from the ground, we send it to pipes
Are we
for residential
in
purposes.
that area? We in that area, is it happening where the water
It's
is?
happening all over. It's all so like a lot of countries drink a lot of bottled water, but the water in Jamaica is so pristine because 70% of the island is limestone that we don't have we have a thriving bottled water industry, but it's not really necessary per se.
Good
Drink
point.
we drink our pipe water from the tap.
I was going to ask you about
So
that. So I want to clarify because I want to make sure I understand what you're saying. You talk
yeah,
about the safety of these wells, the
yeah,
reliance on these wells. And my question to you
yeah,
was, is it a disadvantage or an advantage? And I'm thinking you mentioned there's a disadvantage because if the repeated use of this water,
yeah,
after
yeah.
a while, it starts to suck up the salt water then.
Salt water, yeah,
Right, but yet you're saying that our water is still pristine, that we have
yeah.
no need to rely on bottled water, but yet you're saying that the salt water is seeping into this pristine water.
Yeah,
So
that's it.
is there a point when we may lose this freshness? Or are we?
Well, that's what I'm researching right now because we have a facility here in Jamaica called the Managed Aquifer Recharge. It's the only one of its kind anywhere in the Caribbean.
Is this
Where
new?
no, it's a couple of years old. I think it's probably 4 or 5 years old.
It is new. Okay. I
Yeah,
consider it
it's
new.
new.
Okay. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
Much after the video that you saw me on, I was actually talking about the Managed Aquifer Recharge. And after this, I can send you a link for the full video because you didn't see all of it.
Yes,
Yeah.
please do.
Yeah. So there we take water from a river, the Rio Cobre River, because this is the Rio Cobre Basin, and we purify it. We screen it for all debris, plastics, trees, debris, and stuff like that. And then we remove all the sediment from it. And then we remove any excess nutrients like magnesium, sodium, stuff like that from fertilizers that might have been washed down from farms and stuff like that. And then instead of sending it to people's homes, we pump it back into the ground.
So it's recycled?
Yeah.
Well, that sounds a good thing, yes?
Yeah, it is. That way we can combat over pumping in that area. See, because of climate change, usually water would have water would fall from the clouds, in the form of rain or other precipitation, and then percolate into the ground and replenish the aquifer. But because we're rapidly building homes and building roadways and stuff like that, water can't get the chance to seep back into the ground because it's washing over the concrete and heading back to the sea.
And we can't tell people to stop building homes because
we can't tell people to stop
great. And people are also building close to certain waterways as well.
Exactly. That's because historically people have always built around waterways. If you look at major cities, they're along the coast. If you look at major towns, they're along a river. So it's natural for us to build near water.
And what are any concerns there about that? In terms of people building, they're even actually building in the water, because I know especially in the Montego Bay area, and so there are certain homes that they're kind of pushing out into the water. So any concerns there in terms of what you're studying, and if it's something that you kind of say, okay, there's an urgency here to stop this, or it's just monitoring what is happening?
So in that particular instance, in like Montego Bay, that's a job for a different type of scientist. We have another organization here in Jamaica called NEPA, the National Environmental Planning Agency.
Okay.
And they're charged with taking care of the environment overall. So we work in tandem with them.
Okay.
So when people are building like close to the coast and like building in waterways and mangroves, NEPA is the one who they will have to like apply for licenses and permits to do that.
Okay, very, very interesting. And I'm sure in that there's accountability, there's concerns there. So if it cannot be done, then it cannot be done. And that's what
then it cannot be done. That's right. Yeah. And if it can't be done safely, then it cannot be done.
Yes. I'm glad you mentioned the water quality, but if you have to give it a percentage value of the quality of water, in terms of quality of water in Jamaica, how would you rate the quality of water in Jamaica?
100%.
Huh?
It's 100%.
Then why is it, and I'm going to say this, traveling to Jamaica, people are offering you water, bottled water. Why? I mean, and that, I grew up on the water from the tap. So why, that's a cost people are burdening themselves with when they actually have the water there. Isn't education should be a part of this?
It's convenience, really. Because if you could just grab a bottle of water out of a convenience store and then drink it and then just like dispose of the plastic bottle versus walking around, lugging around big plastic water bottles all day and then refilling it at the tap.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's really just convenience because the water that you refill from the tap is just as good as the water that you bought at the convenience store. Matter of fact, lots of the bottles that you buy in a convenience store here in Jamaica, that water comes from a well. The same well that comes to your home.
And so many Jamaicans, they don't understand that. And I think they don't get it.
The market is split actually. So you have well water from purified well water versus spring water. Now, some people swear up and down that spring water tastes better
than well water.
Well water. And I'm not one of those people. I just think water tastes like water, but sure.
Yes, well,
there's a big fad going around where people are drinking alkaline water.
They're drinking what type of water?
Alkaline water.
Okay, and where does that come from?
So alkaline water is water with a high base reading. So like if you look at the pH of the water, water is typically pH is 7. The scale goes from 0 to 14. So 7 is right down the middle. If it goes close to 0, it's acidic water. If it goes closer to 14, then it's basic water or alkaline water. Because of the limestone here in Jamaica, our water is naturally alkaline. So our water can be found anywhere between 7 to 8 on a pH scale. If you go close to bauxite mining areas, you can get up to pH of a 9 because they use caustic soda to purify the water, and sometimes they will dispose the caustic soda in the ground, and you'll get a high pH water.
And you said who are we talking about? Are you saying people who are producing or bottled water?
Producing bauxite. So okay. Yeah. So because we have a naturally alkaline ground, our water is naturally alkaline. And there's a big trend right now where people are saying, alkaline water is healthier for you.
Is it?
I'm not a nutritionalist.
so
I can't say. Nor am I a doctor, so I can't say. But I drink my water from the tap.
And that's okay. So probably not the safest way to go. So let's talk about region. The parishes then. So you just mentioned the backside, and we know backside is in the we say it's a central area. It's
it is.
Manchester.
It produces a lot of cash revenue for the island. So
right.
It's very central.
So it's It's located in, from what I understand, and there could be other areas, Manchester, St. Elizabeth. So do you, is it safe to say that there are parts of Jamaica who, in terms of the safety of the water, I mean, I know we're talking a lot about water, but I know you're also into rocks and whether water is on top of the ground or under the ground and so on. So tell me where maybe water in cave. Are you interested in waters in cave?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, sometimes I have to go in caves to research water as well.
Okay.
There's a particular project.
Mm-hmm.
There was a particular project. We have a distribution company here in Jamaica that is responsible for distributing water in pipes. It's called the National Water Commission.
Yes.
Yeah, and they apply for.
It's government, yes.
Yeah, it's government, but they still have to apply for license and permits from us, the Water Resources Authority.
Ah, interesting.
Yeah, because they don't do research. They're primarily distribution.
Okay.
So there was a spring that someone found in a cave, and the National Water Commission was interested in pumping water from that cave to a nearby town. So I had to visit that cave every month for 14, 15 months, measuring the water, looking at the quality of the water, trying to calculate how much water can the spring in the cave produce reliably, so that the National Water Commission could then apply for a license to use that water.
So let me ask you something. How are you to calculate the amount or the level? Is there some type of, are you able to, how are you able to calculate the depth then of that spring?
So we have
the
a
source of it, where is it coming from?
It's coming from underground. The source of it is actually a couple miles away from the actual spring. So there's a river that sinks underground and then pops up in the cave. So we know where it's from. How we calculate the amount of water in a river now is that we take a cross section of the river. I take a section of the river. I would calculate the depth of that cross section so we can calculate the area of the river. And because water has a specific density, we know that if this area has 10 gallons of water in it every second, we just take that data over time, use calculations to predict how much water that spring can produce at any given time.
So water is coming in and water is going out. And so you're thinking it is sustainable. It can keep going on like that forever? No,
we can calculate it actually. Yeah. Okay. We can calculate the amount of water that a spring can reliably produce.
Are you able to say where this source is or no? Is it supposed to get?
Yeah, we can. We use a technique called dye tracing. So there are 3 dyes that we use: eosine, fluorescein, and read. Eosine, fluorescein. Is it radon? It's not radon. There's one other dye that's slipping my mind right now. So we'll go to where the river sinks and inject the dye into the river. And then we will put receptors in other rivers around where it sinks. And based on where the receptors pick up the dye, we know that the river sinks here and pops up elsewhere.
Very interesting. And that sounds like hard work.
It is.
So you're wearing water boots and water, anything that
waders and everything.
Everything. Okay, so are you able to say the geographic location, or you want to keep this secret so nobody have access to that water?
It's in an area. It's in an area called Cave Valley.
St. Thomas.
Cave Valley, Saint Anne. It's a border of Saint Anne and Clarendon.
Oh, one of those water parishes.
In the hills.
Okay.
It's in the hills. Yeah.
Good. The body of water, we know it's a way of life for any country, and you mentioned some of the other countries in is it South America that you mentioned? And I don't know if you know of this issue. How modernized is Jamaican water, the water system itself?
We have the best hydrological monitoring system in the entire Caribbean.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's a plus for Jamaica. And is it sponsored by any country?
Sometimes,
Is it sponsored by any country? Because, Jamaica tends to, Japan sponsor highways, this country is China sponsor this. Who is sponsoring any water in Jamaica, the water system?
it's run primarily by the government. Most of our budget comes from the local government, yeah.
But I believe you talk about water distribution, which, National Water Commission is state owned, but I know there are others like Concara and others. So are these private? Are Jamaica kind of creating
those
private?
Those are private enterprises who will come to us and apply for a license. So let's say that you live in Spanish Town and you don't have water. A private company could then apply for a license to drill a well and distribute it to you, and
you pay them.
Then you pay them for water, yeah.
Yeah, and so I know in the beginning of that question I mentioned South America, because that's one of the things that is happening in South America. There's a because the government, in terms of they do not have this sustainable system, I guess. So they allow private enterprise, private investment companies to come in and distribute the water and then modernize the system. And so on. How this may not be your area, but in a sense of you mentioned that you do study some macroeconomics, I believe, some aspects of it. But what does, for example, Bolivia, I've always been interested in what is going on in Bolivia, where an American company went in and modernized the water distribution system, and then start putting in meters and charging. And Bolivia is an agrarian society, and people are very poor. There are farmers, and they start putting in meters and charging them money. Is this happening in Jamaica, where people are there's this modernization and people cannot afford to pay their water bill? And what does that mean in terms of what you're doing? I mean, it sounds like a good thing, but then on the other hand, if you're putting a system that is too modernized, where you have farmers can create their own well in their backyard but then they're saying, well, you can't use water from the sky, because here we're giving you a meter and we're putting money, we're running the pipes to your house, you're taking money out of our pockets. What is happening in that area?
In Jamaica, most distribution companies are state-owned.
Oh, they are? Okay.
Yeah. So for farmers, we have the National Irrigation Commission, state-owned. There are some remote areas where it's very hard to lay pipelines, So we have a rural water commission for rural areas.
Okay.
And they would think of inventive ways of getting water to people, whether it be from a spring or whether it be in Jamaica. We have these things called barbecues, where we set up concrete pavements to catch rainwater and funnel it into a cistern. Yeah, we have those, and those are built by Rural Water Commission. We have the National Irrigation Commission. We have the St. Anne Water Corporation, which is owned by the Urban Development Commission, which is also state-owned. Most of our water is distributed and run by the state.
Well, I'm going to say that's a good thing for me. I don't know how maybe Jamaicans feel about that. Yes, capitalism is a good thing, and give people an advantage to make money. But when
that's debatable.
It's debatable.
But by having it state-owned, we determine the price. And I can tell you this: water in Jamaica is pennies on the dollar. When we say Jamaica is the land of wood and water, we really do mean that it's pennies on the dollar. It's really cheap here.
It's very cheap here. Okay, fair enough. Well, it should be, because it can be pricey, and we know that especially rural people have a very unique way of collecting their water. So if for any private firms who wants to go in, they have to be aware of that. And I mentioned Bolivia because what was happening was people were actually collecting water from the sky. And these private firms did not like that. And they actually went in and forced people and said, if you're collecting the water, you still have to pay for that water from the sky. Can you imagine that? So
yeah, I can imagine that.
yes, they were doing that.
I've heard of something like that happening. But even here in Jamaica, we recommend collecting rainwater.
Imagine that. But in that country, they're saying, no, you shouldn't. And if you do, you have to pay us because basically they're saying we're not going to go away empty-handed. Talk about
here in Jamaica, you can get a blueprint to build your own rainwater harvester for free.
Well, that is kudos to Jamaica then. Kudos for that, because it's not, many countries are struggling with, or should I say citizens in some countries are struggling with the government privatizing the water, and it's creating a very negative impact on the consumers there. So that, tell me about how garbage, littering, pollution, and those things is that some of the areas that you're studying as well?
Well, because of the nature of my job, we do look into contamination of water as well. As you mentioned earlier, you know, that bauxite is a thing here in Jamaica. Yeah. And they produce a lot of waste. But, and their methods for getting rid of it is diluting it and then putting it into a waterway.
Oh, and what's the outcome there or consequences? I'm thinking.
Oftentimes when, let's say that it's a hurricane or a storm and rain is falling really heavily, they won't get the chance to dilute it properly. And you would end up with situations with like fish kill, where the chemicals are being leached into rivers and killing fishes. But typically on the day-to-day, throughout the year, there are no major repercussions.
I mean, this can be your opinion if you want to even go there, but should there be, well, from my head, I'm thinking there should be repercussions. Do you agree with that?
No, as in there aren't any repercussions, meaning that on their day-to-day, they get rid of the waste responsibly.
Oh, so it's not so much that they're doing it irresponsible, that the government should be putting in some kind of consequence on them. You're saying they're doing it okay, I got it. Yeah, got it. So that's seen, and this is who oversight this? Your organization
NEPA.
or NEPA?
Both the Water Resources Authority and NEPA.
And NEPA does that. Okay. There's many rivers in Jamaica. I recently saw a video where there's ponds and, you know, and the same thing that you mentioned.
We have an online database where you could log on to and get maps of rivers in Jamaica, get maps of wells in Jamaica, get maps of springs in Jamaica.
And this is on the Water Resource website, or is it something kept private?
Yeah, it's on the Water Resources website. It's on the WRA's website.
Okay. Do you feel that people, and we're coming down to the last 5 minutes of our talk here, and I thank you so much for sharing. I just want to remind that we're talking to Desmond Wellington. He's a hydrologist in Jamaica. Very interesting stuff, very tough area. I mean, he's telling me things that for me, it's exciting. It seems like an adventure, actually, in terms of what the kind of work that you do. You're talking about discovering water, discovering springs, getting into, you know, these areas. So the field side of it seems interesting. So you have to, the analytical skills is important here, Desmond.
Yes, very important, very important. We run models, we make predictions, we look for trends. It's very important.
Yes. Do you have any, say, any overseas group that shows interest in how Jamaica monitor its water? Or Or if you
Yeah,
make a send a
the-
group go overseas to see what people are doing in order to kind of create a more innovative trend.
yeah, we do have like regional partnerships. Sometimes a hydrologist here in Jamaica would be on loan to other small islands to help them develop their hydrological database.
Okay.
So we will loan officers to other organizations.
So it's like
And a
a
lot of our,
partnership,
and a lot of our,
collaboration.
yeah, bilateral agreement.
Yes. Yes.
Mhm.
Very good. You
And
mentioned
and a
about
lot of our technicians go abroad to do their masters, their PhDs, and come back with the new technology, the new know-how, the new everything, and we help to further and develop our hydrological database.
Good. I'm glad you said they come back because one of the, it's this type of Jamaica have one of the best education system. A lot of people do not know that or recognize that. And we don't want to lose, the people like you. So I hope you do get the chance to go get your master's and your PhD and return to Jamaica to teach and lead.
That is the goal. That is the goal.
That is a goal. And so, so of course, I'm going to put it out there that, you're interested in doing that because in the diaspora, there's the opportunities are sometimes available where they try to, and that's one of the things that I try to do as well with my organization to put out there. We know these type of programs are not easy. They're not cheap. And so anything that can be done to kind of build our small, tiny island in Jamaica. One last question here. You mentioned that part of the water resource, task is also to monitor the water in Jamaica. I know the monitoring in terms of studying it, but is there any physical monitoring where you have, say, for example, soldiers from JDF protecting the water or anything of the sort? Is there any such thing?
We have a central network at our office where we have sensors and read and instruments all over the island, collecting information about rivers, height and fluctuations and everything, and it comes back to our office in real-time data. So we can sit in our office and see a river rise and fall from the office.
Oh, so it's that sophisticated. You're doing like a remote monitoring. And so you can see if people are dumping anything in the water.
Yeah. Well, not see per se, but we can tell if a water is, if a river is behaving differently.
If the river is behaving. Is there any plans to put up cameras, by the way?
Too expensive. Cameras. I'm not, because I'm not in that department. I'm from the planning and investigation department, which primarily does research. I'm not sure if there are plans for cameras to be installed.
Well, thank you so much for sharing, Desmond. You are one of the creme de la creme in Jamaica.
Thank you so much.
No, it really is. When you talk about studying all these areas, I only hear about, I could ask a ton of questions about paleontology. And I mean, I'm thinking there can't be any dinosaurs in Jamaica. Give me.
We have fossils here in Jamaica.
I've heard of it. I've heard that they're trying to dig for oil.
Fossils, but there aren't some like big dinosaurs. They're like snails and crabs and prehistoric fish.
Okay, so yeah, I heard about signs of oil in Jamaica. Is that true?
Yeah, we do have signs of oil.
Okay.
Off the shores of St. Anne.
You quickly before we end, I know I have to end, but you mentioned something about radon. What's the radon level in Jamaica in terms of digging?
Very minuscule, because radon occurs in a very typical type of rock, and because, as I mentioned before, 70% of the island is limestone. We don't have a lot of radon, or we don't have a large radon situation here in Jamaica.
Very good. Anything that I should have asked you that I did not? This is, it is fascinating, and we could go on and on about your area. I mean, think about your study physics, chemistry, biology, geography. paleontology and all these things. And I can't even get into that because it's so fascinating, all the other stuff. What do you think I should have asked you that maybe a mom, a youth is looking at, well, I wish you'd ask this. What do you think? You think we cover enough to get an understanding of what it takes to be a hydrologist?
Funding.
Funding.
How could you get funding? Because one of the hurdles to having a good life is education. And one of the hurdles to education is funding.
So for students to get money to attend these type of programs. Thank you for sharing that. Yes.
Yeah. I had a scholarship to go to the University of the West Indies. I went through the Grace and Staff education program. So you know the company Grace that distribute food.
Yes.
Yeah, they have a outreach program called the Grace and Staff program, where they send inner city youth to school, and that's where I got my scholarship from. And so other than Grace and Staff, there is the Jamaica Student Loan Bureau, who would provide a student loan for you to go to school. And it's state-run, so it's not like a for-profit organization like in America where student loans are a noose around your neck and they're guaranteed to kill you.
Okay.
But there aren't a lot of scholarships for students getting into university. So they usually use your first year results to judge you, and then they would provide you for funding for your second and third year. But if you can't get into university in the first place to get those first year results, then how are you going to get funding for your second and third year?
I get it.
It's hard to get a scholarship for someone in the first year.
And I know that you have to be the best to be even seen and recognized by a company like Grace to receive the funding. So I know with these, when I try to share with people who are not from Jamaica, and I said, look, when you go to Jamaica and you're getting services from any businesses like the banks and government service, you're getting the best of the best, because these jobs are not easy to get. And the education level of these workers are at the top. So please be respectful to them, because they work their butt off to get there, and financially,
definitely.
And financially, it's not easy. And then I know in terms of the job, I know this is something that Jamaica needs to work on in terms of the pay that you get. And even if you get a student loan, the job may not be able to compensate you enough to pay back these loans at the speed that you'd want them to, without it, being a burden. So thank you for sharing that. And this is something that I will, share with other members of the diaspora, because I'm sure you see other students. Was it a cohort that you were part of in this program? Like a group of students who studied this?
Yeah, it was a group of students from downtown Kingston, central Kingston. Central Kingston is a crime-riddled area.
So these inner city youth, and it's kudos to them for being able to maintain and persevere through this kind of program.
Yeah, these kids are like incredibly smart, incredibly talented.
More, and I'm sure, are you in touch with many of them to see how they're faring out, or are they trying to get?
Yeah, a couple of them are still my friends. Yeah. A couple of them are journalists. A couple of them are in finance. Yeah, okay. We're still in touch. Yeah.
And some of them did study. So it's as if maybe they studied geography, geology, or some other area, but they venture into other degree area.
No, I was the only one who did geology. Actually,
that's what I was asking. Okay.
Yeah, I was the only one who did geology.
So it's unique, very unique.
Yeah.
All right. Desmond Wellington, thank you so much. It was just one of those situations that works out perfectly fine on a Saturday night. So I thank you so much for sharing with us. I really do enjoy it, and I'm hoping to keep in touch. And if you learn anything new about, water in Jamaica, and you feel like you want to share again, reach out to us. Thank you again. Okay.
Sure. All right. Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.